On September 2nd, 2011, I did a dive out of Melbourne, Australia at a site called Flinders Pier. I went with a new dive buddy, Sarah, that I met in Melbourne. Flinders is a public pier that reaches about 100 yards out into the harbor. We entered the water from a low landing about halfway out along the pier, then dived the full length of the pier underneath. The first thing that I noticed when we entered was the abundance of growth. Beds of sea grasses covered the floor, and the pier pilings were thick with life. There were soft corals, sponges, sea stars, ascidians, anemones, mollusks. The variety of blue, yellow, orange, and red sponges made the pilings extremely colorful. The seaweeds were swaying with the moderate surge that we experienced during the dive. After thoroughly examining the pier, we set about finding some local sea life. The first thing we saw was a pygmy leather jacket. It was shy and didn't want me to film it. But its cousin, this velvet leather jacket, was much more accommodating. We soon came across a weedy sea dragon. Wheaties are only found in southern Australia, and I was very happy to have found one. But as it turned out, there were quite a few of them under the pier. We came across one after another in a variety of sizes. The Wheaties look kind of like seahorses, but unlike seahorses, they can't use their tails to grasp with. Instead, they propel themselves through the water using their dorsal and pectoral fins. They're not strong swimmers, so they look more like they're drifting than swimming. We even found a baby Wheatie. It looks like it hasn't quite grown into its fins yet. Continuing on, I checked different types of environments around the pier to see what was living there. Near the bottom of a piling, I found a blue-throated wrasse. This one is a female. Then I noticed an old metal structure in the distance, so I checked it out. There was a magpie perch inside. When I inspected a large clump of seaweed, I found a porcupine fish resting amongst the branches. Also hidden in the seaweed was a whiting. There were a lot of whitings swimming around in big schools, and lots of people fishing from the pier trying to catch them. So we had to be careful around the baited hooks so we didn't get reeled in. There were also crab rings about. I saw some fish feeding over near a pile of rocks, so I went over to check them out. They were young black-tipped bullseyes. On top of the pile we found a strange-looking long-nosed weedfish. Its fins were almost transparent in a way that helped it blend in with its surroundings. Just behind the weedfish, in a hole between the rocks, was a Tasmanian blenny, waiting for some food to drift by. As we headed further out the pier, we were greeted by a large Melbourne skate. These skates can grow to be pretty large. This one looked to be 3 to 4 feet across. You can get some idea of the size by comparing it to Sarah as she photographs it. As we neared the end of our dive, I explored the landscape under the pier. I found a tulip shell that looked like it was depositing its eggs on the underside of a rock, and another that may have been dining. Tulip shells are predatory and are known to prey on other shells. We spent the rest of the dive just hanging out with the local Wheaties. Our bottom time for this dive was 1 hour and 26 minutes. We never exceeded 20 feet depth, and the water temperature was 54 degrees. A great day of diving.